Welcome to the Holistic Survival Show with Jason Hartman. The economic storm brewing around the world is set to spill into all aspects of our lives. Are you prepared? Where are you going to turn for the critical life skills necessary to survive and prosper? The Holistic Survival Show is your family's insurance for a better life. Jason will teach you to think independently, to understand threats, and how to create the ultimate action plan. Sudden change or worst case scenario, you'll be ready. Welcome to Holistic Survival, your key resource for protecting the people, places, and profits you care about in uncertain times. Ladies and gentlemen, your host, Jason Hartman.
Welcome to the Holistic Survival Show. This is your host, Jason Hartman, where we talk about protecting the people, places, and profits you care about in these uncertain times. We have a great interview for you today, and we will be back with that in less than 60 seconds on the Holistic Survival Show. And by the way, be sure to visit our website at holisticsurvival.com. You can subscribe to our blog, which is totally free, has loads of great information, and there's just a lot of good content for you on the site. So make sure you take advantage of that at holisticsurvival.com. We'll be right back. It's my pleasure to welcome Coryell to the show. He is owner and president of White Feather Press. He is also a certified NRA advanced pistol instructor and a chief range safety officer. He's co-owner of Midwest Tactical Training and founder of the Second Amendment March. You might be thinking, well, what are we going to talk about today? Well, we're going to start off and we're going to talk about self-publishing and the world of books and publishing and promoting them. And then we are also going to talk about self-defense and Second Amendment issues as well. So this show is planned to be broadcast on my Speaking of Wealth show and my Holistic Survival show, and I think we'll touch on both topics. So kind of a cross-platform show. Skip, welcome. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. I'm speaking to you here from Michigan, Southwest Michigan. It's sunny, it's warm, and just had a fantastic summer here weather-wise and, everything else. So thank you very much for having me on your show. I appreciate it.
The pleasure is all mine, and in Michigan, that is a rare blessing. So good for you.
That's for sure.
Well, hey, tell us about White Feather Press and why you started it, what type of authors you're looking for, and let's get into the book publishing angle a little bit.
Yeah, White Feather Press. I originally started White Feather Press just as a self-publishing venture to publish my own books. I think by then I had written, probably four books, and I tried for about 25 years to go the traditional publishing route, and I had several agents. I believe I had 3 agents.
When you say agent, you mean literary agent, correct?
Literary agent. I had a literary agent from New York City. She was very, very good, but she was unable to sell my books. And then I had another one who was kind of mediocre. And then I had a third agent, finally, who was indicted. So I've had...
indicted for what? Oh, my gosh.
Oh, it was a scam. She would take people's money and just go away. But throughout that, I learned a whole lot about the publishing industry when you try that long to get published. So, I finally just said, you know what, I'm just going to start my own company. And this was about 7 years ago, and just publish my own books. And that's what I did. But lo and behold, people saw what I was doing. They would read my books and see how they were produced and laid out. And they go, can you do my book too? And it just started, that way in my basement. And it just grew and grew and grew, and finally I got to the point where I had to quit my full-time job, in order to do White Feather Press work. And now I've got, close to 80 titles now, around 35 authors all across the country, and it just keeps growing and growing. I think it's a God thing, because 95% of my authors, they are all devout Christians, and that's just the way it started, and it's my dream, and I'm just living the dream and loving it.
Fantastic. So what does your typical publishing deal look like? I mean, are the authors paying you to publish their work? Are you paying them? Or is it simply a profit share on the back end? How do you work it?
Well, it's exclusively a traditional publishing house. and I pay a high royalty on the net. 40% on the net is my standard contract that I send out to authors. Most authors, I don't pay, in advance, but, instead of 10 to 20% royalty on the net, they get 40% on the net. My authors are very, very happy. I get multiple titles for all my authors. I've got one author that's published 6 books, one with 3, one with 5. I mean, what I'm looking for are authors who want to spend a career with one publisher. So, I have to really like your work. I have to believe that God wants this work published, and I have to be able to get my money back plus a little bit more. And, of course, that's the challenge in publishing, because I learned early on this is not an exact science. I mean, you can look at a book and go, wow, this is so well written. This has got to, and it's such a good message. It deserves to be published, and then it'll sell like 10 copies. And then you've got some other books that go, wow, this guy is not a really good writer, but I'll give it a shot. I'll publish it, and they'll sell thousands. You never know.
You just never
exactly
know. Yeah, it's not just a science; it's an art for sure. Okay, good. Well, now you've got 9 of your own books as well, right?
Yeah, I do. I've got 6 novels and then 3 nonfiction books. The nonfiction, 2 of those are about personal defense, Second Amendment activism. The one is Blood in the Streets, Concealed Carry in the OK Corral, and the second one is RKBA, Defending the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. Because, as you know, I was founder of the Second Amendment March, and we held a national rally on the Washington Monument grounds there in Washington, D.C. So I was heavily involved in that. Also, I'm a former Michigan State Director for Ted Nugent United Sportsmen, so I kind of cut my Second Amendment and personal defense teeth, with Ted Nugent as a mentor, which is
we asked. I want to get Ted on the show. It's so surprising to see an old rocker like that be an activist, but it's great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Well, send me an email, and I'll see if I can hook you up with Ted from time to time. I've been known to be successful at that, so just let me know.
So what are some of the big lessons that you've learned from the world of self-publishing? Or now I guess we can't even say self-publishing because you're actually a publisher. So
yeah, it's kind of a special case. But what I've learned is, oh wow, there's just so much to learn. Mostly, about marketing. I mean, you can be real good you can be an incredible writer, incredible author. You can write the all-American novel, but that doesn't mean anyone wants to read it or is going to read it or that anyone knows who you are. Marketing, it's a lot of it is about marketing, and a lot of it is about writing something that people want to buy and read. And, it's like you just throw as much spaghetti up against the wall as you can, you see what sticks, and then you market that. And that's just basically, the way that it is. But, despite all of that, despite having to make a living at this, for me, I want to publish books that God will be proud of. So it would be much easier if I were a pagan and I could just say, all right, I can turn on the television and see what's going to sell. But that doesn't mean that God's going to be proud of it or that he would bless my efforts. And so, there's a balance. I mean, you have to make a living. I've got a wife and 5 kids at home, so I have to pay my bills. But I also have to be a man of integrity, and my publishing house has to mirror what I see in God's Word as this is like the movie Courageous. I love that movie. And I like books, that tell a story about integrity, duty, honor, family, God, patriotism, all of those things. You write a book like that and send it to me, and it's like I'm going to be all over it like a chicken on a June bug because, that's who I am, and that's who White Feather Press is. So,
how can you evaluate books, though? Because when an author comes to you and says, hey, will you publish my work? Gosh, you got to read their whole book each time, or, some of them you read a chapter and put it down and say, no way.
Well, there's a lot of manuscripts that come in. You read the first paragraph, you see 5 typos, and you don't understand what they're saying. So I send them a kind email saying, this needs some work. Good luck to you. Other times you can read the first chapter and go, okay, this is really good. I want to take a look at more of it. But it doesn't stop there, because you can't evaluate just the work. You also have to evaluate the author. Number one.
Yeah, what is, when you speak of the author, that really leads a lot to the question of, is the author going to go out and work after, or are they going to expect the whole world to beat a path to their door? So what are some of the best promotional techniques that you've seen authors use or that you've used to do book promotion?
Yeah, well, hard work. It's just flat out hard work. There's, I get some prima donnas that will come in and give me a manuscript, and I've gotten so that I can recognize them right away. And you want to steer clear of people who have inflated opinions of themselves, because that, even if they have a huge name and they're famous and that they'll sell books, I don't want to work with those people, because they are a royal pain in the butt, and they always want more. So steer clear of the narcissist, whether they make you money or not, because, I worked in the corporate world for 25 years, and now I work for myself, and I can do it the way I want to, and I want to enjoy my work. Those authors, they are just emotionally and spiritually draining, so you want to stay away from those people. I look for humility. I really do. Humility, people who work hard. I look for people who already have some type of a venue. I had a lady...
A platform, yeah.
Yeah, a platform, a radio show, a talk show, a blog, something where they have an online presence, because 80% of books these days, they're sold online, either, by Kindle or print book or audio book. And that's the big push now. There's been a huge change in publishing just in the last 3 or 4 years. It used to be 10% of my books were ebook. Now it's closer to 70%, and that number is growing. And the next big push is audiobooks. Audiobooks are up and coming, and I just now published The God Virus in audiobook, and I was really shocked when I'd logged in 10 days after it debuted, and gosh, it was just a ton of copies were sold, and that surprised me.
Where Audible? Through Audible? Or
Audible.com and Amazon.com.
Yeah, I have my books on Audible too, and I'm a big fan of audiobooks. I buy them all the time personally because they're portable. You can listen to them while you're walking the dog or driving the car. You can't read while you're doing those things, unfortunately.
That's for sure, and not for very long anyways. And, you can listen to it while you're driving, if you do a lot of travel. People don't have time, but they want to read, they want to learn, they want to be entertained. Can read it while you're, on the exercise bike or treadmill or whatever. And it works for people's busy lifestyle. And I think that's one of the reasons audiobooks they're just taking off. And I want to be on the front end of that wave and just write it for all that it's worth.
Absolutely. Okay, let's switch gears here because I don't want to run out of time on you, but let's talk about your interest in the Second Amendment. I always like to say the Second Amendment is what makes the first one possible. We are in an epic history-changing scenario potentially lately with the Obama administration and the war on guns. It's amazing, a couple of decades ago, or maybe 3 decades ago, when MAD came about, Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, obviously a good cause, a mother whose child was killed, inspired the whole thing. And now, decades later, we have really diminished the drunk driving problem. We've made a huge dent in it. But oddly, no one is blaming cars.
Yeah, that's for sure. That seems to be reserved just for guns. You can beat someone to death with a ball bat, but until you pick up a gun and shoot someone, it's not a heinous crime. So, it's definitely that way. The Second Amendment activism, it's becoming not fashionable, but it's becoming more popular in that conservatives are finally going, you know what, I'm going to stop caring about what other people think about me, because I realize that as a nation, we're at a crossroads. And if we don't stop being politically correct, and if we don't stop worrying about what other people think about us, then it's over. It's just flat out over. We've lost a lot of our freedom already. I mean, sure, yeah, we're more free than Russia. Okay.
Maybe.
So
I'm not always sure about that anymore nowadays.
Well, that's true. Depending on the topic,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Depends on the topic.
It's
But let me ask you a question, and this is where the gun control freaks seem to really have a point. And it's a question I wrestle with. When it comes into the type of firearms, does everybody need an assault rifle? Should we be allowed to have AK-47s and AR-15s? Now, granted, what's funny about the legislation is that a lot of it is more just cosmetic. Those guns are single shot per trigger pull anyway. It's not like they do any more than just a hunting rifle necessarily.
Yeah.
But they look like a military weapon, right? They have which I think is cool, by the way. But they can't honestly do any more damage than some good old simple hunting rifles out there.
Right. Yeah, they're the demon. They're the demon. They're the weak link in the Second Amendment chain. I was just out on the range yesterday afternoon from 2 to 5. I sponsored a fundraiser for wounded warriors, and it was a father-daughter shoot. And we just went there. I had 10 girls, 9 to 18 years old, with their fathers, and I taught them how to shoot pistols, how to shoot rifles, how to shoot shotguns. And these girls were like kids in a candy shop. I mean, they just loved it, and they learned it safely. And we even shot an AR-15. And you know what? We all walked away from there. Nobody was bleeding, and no one was the worse for it. They had a great time. They bonded with their fathers. Like you said, it's cosmetic. And your first statement, how do you argue that you need that? Well, you know what? And that's another thing.
I mean, you do need it if the government becomes tyrannical, and we really do get to the point of societal breakdown or tyrannical government. Then you will need it. Of course, no one can outfire the government's firepower. The people will never be able to do that unless they take control of the military. But, I guess, you have a chance, right? Or I don't know. What is the rationale? When it comes to the type of weapon, make the argument if you would. Or maybe you don't have an argument and you agree with the gun control people on that part. I don't know. I don't know where you stand.
No, I don't. I don't agree with them. The Second Amendment, it's special, okay? And when you talk about need, you've already lost the argument, because it's like, no one comes to you and said, you know what, you don't need that snowmobile, or you don't need that motorcycle. You don't need a car that goes more than 70 miles an hour. You know what? We would look at them and we would go, shut up, get out of my face, this is none of your business. But they do the same thing with a God-given, constitutionally protected right. And we don't do that. We go, oh my gosh, I'm on the defensive.
Okay, then let me take it to the extreme then and be devil's advocate, because listen, I agree with you. I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment for sure. But where does it end? I mean, should average citizens like you and I have the right to have, a bazooka, a rocket-propelled grenade? At what point do you decide, okay, this is enough for an average citizen? In California, hypocritically beyond belief, years ago, Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's, in all these incredibly violent movies with 50 caliber weapons, he outlawed them. Yeah, I mean, it's just totally ironic. But where do you draw that line? Or would you say you don't draw it?
Yeah. Well, oddly enough, a couple of years ago, Chris Matthews from Hardball, he asked me the identical question. And
you mean the guy with the tingling up his leg?
Yeah, that tingling
over Obama
leg guy.
Yeah.
He asked me the same question. And it's hard to answer that question because it depends on what the situation is. I think you certainly need, state-of-the-art assault-type rifles if the government is out of control. And I think we can see that the government is getting out of control right now. they've been out of control for a while. So right now, in this particular situation, I want my AR-15. In fact, I'm thinking, man, I need full automatic right now, and maybe I do need a bazooka. Okay, because I don't know where this road is heading. Does the average person in his everyday life need that?
Some people
Probably
listening,
not.
some people listening will write you off for saying that as you're absolutely out of your mind. But
Yep.
I got to tell you, people, all you got to do, people don't know history anymore. It's amazing. I mean, it's been so revised and sanitized and politicized and become so politically correct. The textbooks have all been rewritten. Nobody knows the truth anymore. This revisionist history movement has been going on for a few decades now. But every government in the world that throughout history has gone the direction we are now going in the United States of America has become more and more oppressive and with a socialist bent, and then after that the next step is a communist bent. It means you either have big government, or, when the government is big, the citizen is smaller. So people will say that's crazy. Not in America. That could never happen here. We have rights. Well, what guarantees your rights? Certainly the politicians in Washington have disobeyed the Constitution in numerous ways over the past 12, 15 years. I mean, it's just unbelievable what's been going on. And I say with Bush and Obama more so, he's kind of a continuation of George W. Bush. And I love how the critics of Bush love Obama, but it's the same policies, but just more of it.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, well, when I look at things
sense.
like the Patriot Act, even when Bush came through with the Patriot Act, I didn't like it. Because you know what? There is potential for real abuse here. And then, Obama is basically, he's the Patriot Act on steroids, and then, we passed National Defense Authorization Act, which is even worse. And now we've got drones flying in America. We've got reporters being spied on. We've got citizens being spied on. We could be monitored right now. And it's like 5 years ago, I would look at that or listen to someone like me saying that. I'd go, that guy is paranoid. Boy, get him on some, Prozac or something. But now I look at what's happened and the way we're going, and it's like, that's not paranoid. Paranoia is believing something that's not going to happen. This is happening now.
It is happening now.
I mean, the NSA is listening to us
of course
right
they are.
now. The catalogs.
That's right.
I mean, this is just, it's crazy. It's lunacy. That's why I go, you know what? We don't know what we're going to need in 5 years. But, a God-given right should not be about need. Do I need to go to church on Sunday? Or can I, on Wednesday night, can I only go on Sunday? We wouldn't think of regulating those other ones to the same degree that we regulate the Second Amendment. This is a God-given right that we have to take, or else government, if there are usurper things left unattended. If we leave the Second Amendment unattended, it's going to be scarfed up by tyrants, and it's going to be genocide. That's what history has taught us all through the 19th century. Anyone who gave up their Second Amendment rights, they were summarily liquidated. And I just don't want that to happen. I love my kids. I love my country, my state, my family, all that.
It's amazing what's going on, and most people are just oblivious. I mean, they're busy sitting at Starbucks and just doing, they're distracted by everything, and it's like, people say sometimes of course it's not the two things it's not polite to talk about are politics and religion, and people say, oh, you shouldn't do this on social media and post it on Facebook, or are you kidding? We are at a seminal time in history. I mean, this is not a normal, maybe in a normal time where everything's just sort of even keel, sure. But nowadays, I mean, things are changing so quickly, and we've got to have a dialogue about this stuff and bring it to the forefront and make other people aware of what's going on. They can disagree, fine, but at least get it out there.
Yeah, for sure. We have to talk about it.
Yeah,
if we're going to survive, we have to talk about it.
We do have to talk about it. Well, any advice you want to give anybody on home safety tips or anything like that? And then I just want to ask you to give out your websites.
Sure. Yeah. Home safety, number one, you've got to get trained. Okay. Number two, you've got to get some firearms. I say training first because don't A lot of people, they just run out and buy a gun. Okay, but that doesn't teach you how to defend yourself, how to defend your family, how to operate the gun. Get the training first, then you know better what kind of gun you need to have, okay? And then you can go ahead and protect your family. Join the National Rifle Association or some other like-minded group. Political correctness, we have to kill it. It's a rattlesnake. We got to shoot it in the head and be done with it. So speak out at work, at school, at home, at play. Teach your kids the truth about the Bill of Rights, about God, family, and country stuff, because they're not getting it at school, and that's another whole show. So all of those things. So you want to learn about Skip Coryell, go to skipcoryell.com. Go to facebook.com/Skip Coryell, Midwest Tactical Training, all of those places. All my books, you can get those at amazon.com. The God Virus just came out on audiobook. So, go pick that up. That is a lot about preparing for societal collapse, other paranoid things, that I love and live and breathe. So all of those things, skipcoryell.com.
Sounds good, Skip. Well, hey, thank you so much for joining us today and telling us about your publishing involvement and your Second Amendment involvement, too, and keep spreading the word about both.
All right. Thank you, Jason. God bless you. Have a great day.
I've never really thought of Jason as subversive, but I just found out that's what Wall Street considers him to be.
Really? Now, how is that possible at all?
Simple. Wall Street believes that real estate investors are dangerous to their schemes because the dirty truth about income property is that it actually works in real life.
I know. I mean, how many people do you know, not including insiders, who created wealth with stocks, bonds, and mutual funds? Those options are for people who only want to pretend they're getting ahead.
Stocks and other non-direct traded assets are a losing game for most people. The typical scenario is you make a little, you lose a little, and spin your wheels for decades.
That's because the corporate crooks running the stock and bond investing game will always see to it that they win. This means, unless you're one of them, you will not win.
And unluckily for Wall Street, Jason has a unique ability to make the everyday person understand investing the way it should be. He shows them a world where anything less than a 26% annual return is disappointing.
Yep, and that's why Jason offers a one-book set on creating wealth that comes with 20 digital download audios. He shows us how we can be excited about these scary times and exploit the incredible opportunities this present economy has afforded us.
We can pick local markets untouched by the economic downturn, exploit packaged commodities investing, and achieve exceptional returns safely and securely.
I like how he teaches you how to protect the equity in your home before it disappears and how to outsource your debt obligations to the government.
And this set of advanced strategies for wealth creation is being offered for only $197.
To get your Creating Wealth Encyclopedia Book 1, complete with over 20 hours of audio, go to jasonhartman.com/store.
If you want to be able to sit back and collect checks every month, just like a banker, Jason's Creating Wealth Encyclopedia series is for you. Thank you for joining us today for the Holistic Survival Show, protecting the people, places, and profits you care about in uncertain times. Be sure to listen to our Creating Wealth show, which focuses on exploiting the financial and wealth creation opportunities in today's economy. Learn more at www.jasonhartman.com or search Jason Hartman on iTunes. This show is produced by the Hartman Media Company, offering very general guidelines and information. Opinions of guests are their own, and none of the content should be considered individual advice. If you require personalized advice, please consult an appropriate professional. Information deemed reliable, but not guaranteed.